Hello everyone and welcome to Launchpad Live. My name is Bill Kalivas, your host for today. We're very thrilled to have the Next Generation Leadership event here at Launchpad. We have a wonderful crowd here today. We also have several folks on the internet through our WebShare Live channel. Welcome to all of you. So today we're going to go through a little introduction of some of our guests, our sponsors, folks that are really involved in this community. But I'd like to give all of you who showed up today a round of, give yourselves a round of applause if you wouldn't mind. Thank you for being here. First off, I want to introduce one of our partners that's here today that was instrumental in starting the Next Generation Leaders community. Linda Finney from Leadership Spokane. Would you go ahead and come up here for just a moment, please? How are you?
I am well, thank you. Happy
Great.
Friday.
Yeah, someone that actually is the yin to my yang, I think, today, a little bit. You got the holiday spirit going on.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, the smiley face, you're happy. You're into the holidays, aren't you?
Very much. Had my shopping done. And
I love it. Excellent. Well, what we're going to do today is really talk about the Next Generation Leaders community. But this community wouldn't be here if it weren't for the help of my friend Linda Finney. She's Executive Director of Leadership Spokane. Tell us a little bit about Leadership Spokane, if you would.
Leadership Spokane is one of 600 or 700 community leadership training organizations in this country and around the world. The idea is that you gather together your best and brightest, get them very educated in their community, connect them with leaders, and empower them to go out and really take a civic role that's pretty high policy, but it also has huge repercussions for people professionally. And we do see some personal development as well. So we're thrilled to support young leaders because that's our role, is to start bringing people forward and getting you involved.
Yeah, and Linda's been wonderful. If you don't know much about Leadership Spokane, I encourage you to go check it out, go to their website. They have some wonderful programs, and they're just a great partner in this community. So I want to thank you for your support.
Bill. Thank you.
Yep, let's give her a round of applause, everybody. So a quick update, a couple things about Launchpad. Launchpad, if you don't know, we're a regional professional networking organization. We believe in face-to-face networking, but we also have an online networking site that you can join for free, and you can check out the different communities. Each week we focus on a different community, and today it's the Next Generation Leaders community. And we like to bring people together, but we also like to utilize technology because it's cool and fun. And what we like to also do is talk about some of the events that are coming up. So next week we'll be focusing on the job seekers community. I know a lot of folks are out there looking for work, and we're going to have a panel discussion. So same time, same day next week, Friday on December 16th, right here at Launchpad, we'll be talking about the job seekers community. I also want to see a show of hands of anybody who went to the holiday party on Tuesday. A few people. The rest of them are still recovering. It was quite a fun event. I want to thank everyone who came to the holiday party. We had a blast. We love celebrating with our members and bringing everybody together face to face. Had a great time. I want to thank the Davenport Hotel, Spokane Symphony Associates. Christmas Tree Elegance was the theme, and it's really all the raffle tickets go to a great cause. We do have some extra raffle tickets here for those in attendance, and I think the drawing's tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, right? So if you're here and you're going to join us for the networking event following this program, we're going to be meeting over in Nectar Tasting Room. We got a great lunch. We have some gift bags for everyone who's here today, and I encourage you to get some of the raffle tickets as well. Again, it goes to a great cause for our local culture. So that being said, we're very fortunate to have a special guest with us here today. My good friend Jason Swain of Jason Swain & Associates is going to join us. Jason, come on up. Let's give Jason a round of applause. How are you, sir? Go ahead and have a seat. Thanks. Jason is one of those people that constantly reminds me that I'm supposed to be prepared and organized when I do these kind of things. He'll email me, contact me, text me, just get a hold of me and say, now these are the things that we do when we're preparing for certain meetings and shows. And he's been a great mentor for me. And he's also one of our instructors for a few of the workshops that we do. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your day jobs, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I do a couple things, and it's easy to talk about both of them simultaneously. I work at Gonzaga, and I internally am kind of the manager of employee and organization development, and I also have my own consulting practice called Jason Swain & Associates. And the kind of
That's a catchy name, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's great. So the work that I do for both is the same, whether it's internal for Gonzaga or external clients. The way I'd sum it up is I help organizations create and sustain a competitive advantage. Because really, in today's constantly changing world, the only remaining source of a competitive advantage is to get the people in your organization clearly aligned towards key results that you've got to achieve, and then you've got to get the people in the organization working collaboratively and effectively together to achieve those results. And that's what I do.
Perfect. So you've taught a few classes for us. Can you remind folks some of the classes that you teach?
Yeah, actually I've got one coming up next Thursday the 15th from 12 to 2 in this room, and that one's on dealing with change and transitions. The way I do that workshop is, change is constant. We're all constantly dealing with it, and that's not going to go away. So this workshop is all about how do we as people deal with change. It's not the external change events that we have a hard time with, it's how we process it on the inside.
Right.
So this workshop is all about what happens when we deal with change. So I either can deal better with myself, or if I lead and manage people, how can I lead and manage them through change better? And the way I structure the workshop is I want you to bring a real-world change you're currently struggling with. And I'll walk through this process, and you keep applying this to the change in your life, so you walk out with a plan for how do I go back and deal with this change better. What you also have is a blueprint for how do I deal with future changes that are coming my way, and how can I lead other people more effectively through it.
Do you have any module in there for men losing their hair? That's a pretty big change.
It's if that's the one you want to focus on when you walk out, your hair won't grow back, but you'll feel better about yourself.
You'd be so rich if you could figure that one out.
Exactly.
Not that I care about that.
No, of course not.
All right, so today's subject is the next generation leaders.
Yeah.
You teach a class called Solving the Generational Puzzle.
Right.
And you taught it, I think, a week or two ago here at Launchpad. The feedback I got was phenomenal.
Good.
People were so impressed with the research that you provided and some of the commentary. Can you share a little bit about the highlights of that workshop as it relates to today's discussion?
Yeah, for the first time in the United States history, we've got 4 different generations trying to work together in the workplace. We've always had multiple generations, but now we have 4. And that's because people are living and working longer. The average life expectancy is now in the 80s. In the 1900, it was 47. And thanks to our good friend the economy, a lot of people who probably would have retired by now are sticking around or coming back to work. So we've got 4 different generations working together. The challenge with that is all 4 different generations have very unique value systems. And so when they're trying to work and communicate with each other, they're looking at things through their own lens. And so what this workshop does is help you understand what are the respective value systems of each of the 4 different generations in the workplace today. And the reason that's important is severalfold, but probably most importantly, there's this huge demographic shift that's coming.
Right.
We've got 80 million baby boomers who eventually are going to retire en masse. And when that happens, we only have about 46 million Generation Xers to fill the void, and 76 million Generation Y. But the problem is 85% of jobs today require a high level of skill, training, experience, and knowledge. So of that small pool of people to fill those jobs, how many of them have the training that they need?
Right.
So are we preparing for that? No, we're not. So it scares me. But some organizations are. They're really making themselves attractive to all 4 different generations because they understand the value systems of each generation.
Right. And obviously the younger generation was brought up with the internet and technology, and they're more technologically savvy. I mean, it's just a reality of it.
Well, yeah. Think about the amount of change that occurs between one generation and the next. 100 years ago, the world didn't change much between generations, so we tended to show up with similar value systems. Today, think about somebody who grew up before television, somebody who grew up with television.
Why did you look at me when you said that?
Somebody who grew up with the personal computer, where you have 24-hour access to news, and somebody growing up now with a very powerful internet in their pocket.
Right.
Huge difference in how we expect things to happen, how quickly we expect things to happen, how we prefer to work. Those organizations that are tapping into that, the value systems of the people they're trying to attract and retain, are going to win. Those that don't are going to be left with what's ever left over.
And what I found most interesting about the discussion you had, we had a smattering of the millennials, the Gen Xers, and the older folk, the baby boomers like myself, who were in the audience during your workshop, and so many light bulbs went off. When you started talking about maybe the differences, if we focused on the differences between the generation, if the younger generation really understood what baby boomers were going through when they were growing up, they would have a different context. And it could help with communication gaps.
Absolutely.
And all the arguments and the miscommunication that happens in an organization. And I thought that's what I took away was most powerful.
Yeah, it's fun when I get to do this with an intact organization, because you walk in and you can just sense the older crowd saying, oh, finally someone's going to come in and fix these darn kids. And the darn kids are thinking, finally someone's going to enlighten these dinosaurs.
Right.
And they're all looking at each other through these, nasty lenses. And what this does is when I'm done, you clearly understand why each generation has the values that they have. It makes perfect sense.
Right.
And we need all four of those.
We do.
Rather than getting frustrated by them, we need to tap into them.
Right. And you spend a lot of time with young people, obviously. What are you seeing? I mean, what kind of, I don't know, personality traits are you seeing with the younger generation, especially with today's economy? Mm-hmm. Are they optimistic? Mm-hmm. Are they thinking, how am I going to get a job in this economy? What am I going to do? Or are they just saying, you know what, I'm going to make something happen for myself?
That's hard to answer. I mean, in terms of personality style, I mean, we're all different and unique. But what I can say from the research is that Generation X, one of the quintessential traits that we tend to have, unfortunately, is skepticism. We grew up with 24-hour media, so no institution and no individual withstood the white-hot spotlight of the media. You name the institution, we'll name the crime. Mm-hmm. So we're skeptical of institutions and leaders, so we look out for ourselves. The Army was brilliant with their logo, be all that you can be. I'm going to go there and learn everything I need to learn to take care of myself because I don't trust any individual organization to do that for me. So we're very entrepreneurial. What I really am excited about with the millennial generation is they're much more realistic, and they give people the benefit of the doubt first. And a lot of millennials are very pragmatic. They want their work to make a difference in the world. And so they don't want to come to an organization and do mundane tasks. They want to be involved and make a difference from the get-go. And they're very collaborative, which is very exciting. That's what we need in the world today. So I think a lot of millennials, although older generations would say they don't have the same work ethic, they actually do. They'll work just as hard. Look at Google. Mm-hmm. Look at what Obama was able to get out of millennials for free, 80 mm-hmm. hours of work, because they're tapping into their desire to make a difference in the world.
Obama, who's this again? I'm not familiar. Is he someone at GU?
I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying, hey, it's very effective.
No. I think I really appreciate you coming today. Every time you speak and one of your workshops, I can see the light bulbs going on, and it's a tremendous benefit for Launchpad. So I want to thank you for being part of the organization and really helping out. And you're a good addition to the team, okay. and we appreciate you being part of it.
I appreciate it. And if I may, I think this next generation thing is one of the greatest things going on in Spokane, because I fear for Spokane. Are we attractive to young generations? I think you're helping, and I think Linda has a mentor program as well for younger people, and mm-hmm. it's great. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, let's give it up for Jason Swain, everybody. Thank you for being here. All right. So we got plenty of time now, so let's go ahead and invite our guest panelists to come up. That is Melissa Murphy, Kevin Kunz, Jeremy Tangen, and Mr. Luke Baumgartner. Go ahead and have a seat. We are going to have a panel discussion up here with these four folks, and I couldn't be happier with everyone agreeing to be part of this discussion. I know everyone's extremely busy. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask these four to go ahead and introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about your company, tell us a little bit about yourself if you're from Spokane. But go ahead and take a moment to do that, and then we'll jump right into some questions. So Melissa, go ahead.
Thanks, Bill. My name is Melissa Murphy. I'm owner of a new residential real estate company here in town called Choice Realty. Also, I am the upcoming author of my first book, The American Dream Revisited. So I'm thrilled to be a part of the panel and look forward to exchanging in the dialogue.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Kevin?
My name is Kevin Kunz. First off, Bill, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. My team really appreciates what you're doing for this community. My name is Kevin Kunz once again. We're based out of here in Spokane, Washington, a company called Aroura LLC. It's a brand new distribution company, and we're very excited to bring our product here to this market. It's called Chlorostone. It's a ceramic-based permeable paver. In simpler terms, it's a brick that allows water to pass through it. Mm-hmm. And it's something that's very revolutionized for the construction industry, and we're excited to bring it here to market.
Yeah, and I got to say, Kevin is one of the most passionate entrepreneurs I've ever met. He also dresses very well, and just great having you both a part of this. You've both been very supportive, and I'm super excited to have you here. Mr. Baumgartner?
I'm Luke Baumgartner. I'm a writer at The Inlander, and I'm also a founding organizer of Terrain, which is a nonprofit arts organization that seeks to kind of connect young and emerging artists with the arts establishment.
Yeah, you recently had your terrain event in Spokane.
Yeah.
How many people attended?
We think we lost track of clickers and we ran out of armbands, but we think we got about 6,500 people.
6,500 people.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's phenomenal. We love that.
Yeah.
Really celebrating culture here in Spokane.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to the point that was made earlier, I think, you know, you have to have, culture is kind of the first thing that gets sent by the wayside in an economy like this, you know, especially when you're talking about donating to nonprofits. It's, you know, you think about kids first and maybe puppies second, and then arts organizations kind of get whatever's left over. But I mean, in creating a vibrant community, especially one that attracts young leaders, I think, you know, one of the things that's drawn people to terrain is that that's what we've kind of pushed on. It's like, if we want people, if we want interesting people here, we have to have an interesting, you know, community to draw them to.
Yeah, I do recall in my 20s, that was very important, just a couple of years ago. So, Jeremy, you're really bored all the time, aren't you? You don't have much going on in your life.
Yeah.
Talk about what you're doing.
Well, I'm one of the guys that's hungover from your so. And I would have wore socks had I known I was sitting at the end of the table here and we didn't have anything in front of us.
The camera's on the show. You're only from the chest
perfect.
up.
I just wanted to make sure and get it out there. So, I'm Jeremy Tangen. I have a couple of different establishments in the hospitality industry. I have a real estate company, and then I have, I'm the flight commander for the 194th, the Force Support Squadron for the Air National Guard.
Wow. You can go ahead and mention the establishment. That's fine.
Okay. I have Press Public House, which is on the South Hill. It's a little martini lounge. I have MarQuee Lounge, which is a lot bigger martini lounge, and Fast Eddie's, which is a bar.
Yeah.
I guess I'm assuming most people have been there probably.
Right.
It's been around for 25 years.
Right.
We bought it here recently, so.
That's outstanding.
Yep.
So you can tell we have a nice, diverse group of people to talk to today, and I couldn't be more thrilled for that reason. So let's jump into a question that I've been thinking about is why did you decide to stay in Spokane? And I say that not as a negative. I say that as someone who loves this community and is so thrilled that we have people like you here. But talk a little bit about what were the attributes about Spokane that you enjoy so much, and is it the right environment for you and your business?
That's a great question, Bill, and I've traveled around and I've lived in other places, and I truly can say it's been an honor to come back, and it's my choice to stay here. Many of those reasons focus around, number one, the quality of life, two, the affordability, and three, the fact that we embrace people as a community. Sometimes you'll go into a new city, and if you're not from there, or it's harder to break into that business group, and everybody in Spokane is so warm and welcoming. I find that a lot with people who are moving to the area. It only takes a couple years before they feel like Spokane is home. So I've enjoyed, honestly, the best part of my job is when somebody is looking at other areas and I get to tell them how wonderful our community is.
Right.
So it's been an honor to invest here. It's been an honor to start my business here, and I look forward to being here for years to come.
Absolutely. Jeremy, so your business, your primary business is hospitality. That's a great way of saying you let people party, and I like that. It's important. I mean, a vibrant nightlife is so critical, and it's not the only thing. Obviously, the arts and other things are important. Tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you in getting your businesses off the ground, and kind of what you've learned over the last couple of years.
It's a struggle.
Yeah.
You go, and it's something where the community, it's the people in the community that really allow us to thrive, and it's the connections, just like Melissa was talking about, with the people that are actually here, and the social networking and groups like Launchpad.
Yes.
But it certainly isn't the state or local government, I don't think, right now. Right now, we have one of the highest tax rates from the state, and then the local government has more restrictions than any other community we've looked at. So again, I go back to, it's just the people that are in the community and working with them.
Have you found a voice within City Hall or in some of those organizations where you can talk to people?
It's getting better. It really is getting better. It actually takes getting involved, putting the time and effort in, and sometimes paying attorneys. But you eventually get to that point where you can make a difference, and they're starting to listen, especially with the economy the way where it's at right now.
Have you found that the folks that are coming to your establishments would you say it's increasing? I know it's the holidays, and that's probably part of it, but how's business been overall?
The amount of patrons through the door is the same compared to 4 years ago or whatever when we opened up. However, their budgets have dropped a lot.
Shrunk a little bit.
You're seeing that as opposed to the average male having a $30 tab, probably dropping down to somewhere in the low 20s is what we're finding. So the economy's definitely hit. People still want to go out, still want to be entertained, still want to be social, but they don't have the budget that they used to make that happen.
Have you thought about just doing a BYOB night or something? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I totally would if I could, but that would get me in even more trouble.
That might not make any sense. So let's talk to Mr. Kunz here for a second. Again, I love your enthusiasm. Tell us what you're doing right now with your company. Like, where are you at right now, and what do you need?
Okay. Well, I am a recent graduate of Washington State University, a young college kid, fresh out of the box, so to speak. Like Jason had hit on, we're looking to collaborate. My generation looks to collaborate. I came up with a great idea, or my group came up with a great idea, and I look at all the components as, what do I need to get to the next step, and how do I go about doing that? Opportunities like Launchpad is great for us because we meet people and professionals already in the industry that allow us to make that collaboration. I also brought in my community, people I trust. I'm a graduate of Gonzaga Prep, Greg Johnson, Stephen Hertz, and Matt Blaine, part of my team, so I continue to grow and have that trust.
Right.
But we are looking for funding. And in a business world and environment today where you need to find that, it's very difficult. And we have found that to be a little hard for us, especially here in Spokane, but we're going to stick it through, and we're ready to make something happen.
So I can tell you and others that are watching and others that are here, there are great things happening with organizations to get the word out about funding, about resources for startups, for entrepreneurs. There are some wonderful discussions happening. I think you're going to see a much bigger effort to get the communication out there. Because any entrepreneur that wants to stay in this area, we should be surrounding them with lots of community support, lots of help. There shouldn't be a company that leaves Spokane for lack of being able to contact someone to get help. And I believe that's going to happen. I really do. And I applaud you for being here and for sticking it out. And more information for you to come, by the way. We have lots of good stuff going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So from a financing side and other stuff.
We love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Luke.
Yeah.
So you are in the middle of, I would say, one of the top weeklies or publications that really embodies the culture of this area. How long have you been at the Inlander?
Over 6 years now.
Okay.
And I've kind of held most of the hats on the editorial side. I was a music editor, arts editor, and now I'm just back to being a staff writer, which is where my passion is.
Are you from Spokane?
Yeah, I grew up in the country north of here.
Okay.
On not a farm, but on land.
Sure. Yeah. No. And then, so what do you love about being at the Inlander? What do you enjoy?
I really love the flexibility of the Inlander. One of the things that makes it different from like a daily paper, this is kind of like a sausage making thing, but you're allowed to kind of find great stories wherever they happen to be. You know, a lot of times you have to work a beat at a paper, but there's really not a huge beat, you know, at the Inlander. So I can, you know, one week I'm writing about cowboys. This week I'm going to go hang out with some furniture makers in the valley, and it's, you know, you just love coming to work every morning and just meeting, you know, the vibrant people that live here that, you know, you don't really hear about in the, you know, normal day to day.
When you hear people say that there's, especially younger people, I remember when I was in my 20s and 30s, I left twice. But I came back, but I left because it just didn't feel like there was enough vibrancy. The nightlife wasn't nearly what it is now. And it just didn't seem like I connected. I wanted to go where there were tons of other young people and the culture. Has that changed, you think, over the last 6 years?
Well, I mean, one of the reasons we started Terrain was because that was exactly what was happening, specifically for visual artists. Like, a lot of really talented people were getting their degrees here or were from here, and they were going to Seattle or Portland, where there's a community built already, like a community that's been around for, you know, decades. And what we wanted to try to do was, you know, there is a community here, and there's an arts establishment here, one that's been around for, you know, 100 years in the museum and Browns Edition, but there was no kind of communication between those two groups, and there was no clear way for these young people especially with the way that art galleries have been going out of business here, to get those kind of help people start their careers here, I guess, in arts. And so, and it's not really much to do with terrain. I don't know. It's I think we caught on to the beginning of a groundswell that has continued, and that's really starting to look vibrant. People are getting their degrees at WSU, they're getting their degrees at Gonzaga, they're getting creative writing degrees at an excellent program at EWU, and then they're sticking around and they're hanging out. And I think this is one way in which I think the economy might be helping our town right now, is that kids that can't get jobs stick around places where they already are, but then also places with lower costs of living, rather than going to, my mortgage here is what is, I think, 2/3 of my apartment in Seattle, rather.
And maybe staying with their parents or near their parents, which the parents love, by the way.
And that's actually why I ended up back here, so I could sleep on my parents' couch.
Exactly.
And you guys are exactly describing my situation right now, so,
Yeah. Your parents are here, by the way.
Yeah.
They're urging me to get you financing quickly.
Right. Yeah. There you go. A little parent pressure.
Parent pressure. I love it. Yeah. What was interesting is I lived in Greece in the 80s, and I noticed that all of the young people stayed at home until they were in their 30s. And I used to ask the Greek people in the community, why are your kids there? They can't find jobs. And it really hit home. And if you know what's happening in Greece right now, you know that that's a model, not a model for being careful with the economy. But it's really interesting to me for that phenomenon that maybe there are going to be more people that were from Spokane that are going to be here that need our help, whether you're an entrepreneur or an artist. And Luke, do you think the same way I know that there is more being done to help entrepreneurs that are of your generation? Is there enough being done to help the creative folks that want to stay here and make a living?
Yeah, no, that's a tough question. It's one that kind of gets to the heart of it. Most of my most talented friends are, very few of them are making a job or making a living doing what they're passionate about. So they're they're working as bartenders, they're waiting tables, they're trying to kind of build this life for themselves. And I think it's getting better, but it really, especially with visual arts right now, it's going to take something kind of spectacular, and I think it's going to take all of us to try to get behind this. I mean, it's really going to take, I think what it is, it's going to take a mindset change. Everybody in town deciding that they can go spend $100 at Pottery Barn and get something to hang on their wall because it goes with the color palettes that they picked out.
Right.
Or going to finding a local artisan or a local artist and really valuing the uniqueness of that product and the localized element of it. But I also think that's happening. I think that people are realizing across the board that there's so much there's so many things that aren't built to last in this world, and art is something that can be.
Right. Like my iPhone screen.
Right.
Sorry. So, Melissa, you started a very innovative real estate company that's unique and a little disruptive, I would say.
Yes.
If I've been in technology most of my career, and the word disruptive is very important, and it's a good thing. It means people are taking notice, and you're changing the way things are done. So can you talk a little bit about your model and how it's different?
Absolutely. The real estate model hasn't changed for decades, and we saw a need and we saw a desire out there for options in terms of compensation. So back in August, my business partner Ron McIntyre and I launched out with a brand new model that has never been done before here locally. What we've done is we've offered straight a commission model or a hourly compensation rate. Basically, you can hire me like you would an attorney or a CPA or somebody to guide you through the process. No longer is it just take it or leave it, straight commission or nothing. And what that has really done is it has allowed people who are underwater or are tight on equity or are with technology at our fingertips, people have access to information. No longer are we trying to say, I'm the only one who can tell you about this home. People can do a lot of their research on their own and then call me to walk them through the process. I'll negotiate 75 to 100 contracts a year, so you want somebody like me on your side and you don't want to go it your own. So it really has been innovative, but like you said, disruptive is a good way to put it in our industry.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good example for everyone who's on the panel, everyone in the audience, everyone watching. Disruptive is good. Look at Apple. Apple changed the game in the music industry, right? And Steve Jobs basically said, no, there's a better way to do this, a better way to think about this. The economy is changing. Our world is changing, obviously, but the economy is changing and buying habits are different now. People are mobile.
Correct.
My office is this and my phone, and I can go anywhere and operate my business. And that's unique, and there are a lot of folks my age and older that don't get that. We come from the brick and mortar mentality. So I think what you've done is spectacular. I applaud you. I know you probably got a little pushback from the establishment organizations, but I love that idea. So for each of you, take that opportunity to say, you know what, let's go ahead and think about those industries where we can make a difference, like what you're doing, Kevin.
Right.
Talk about a good old boys type of industry that's been around for years.
Right.
You're changing the paver industry.
Right.
So, I applaud you for doing that.
When you look at the
what are your challenges?
When you
right
look
now?
at the whole green, people call it a green phase, but I like to call it more of a green revolution. It's something that's so new, and like you said, we've paved asphalt and concrete all over our cities. And that was always just the way to do it. It had functionality. We could drive our cars over it. We could park our vehicles on it, but there was no functionality. Here in the 21st century, we're more geared towards sustainability, meaning what's the best use we can get from our land, and how long can we make it last? Our ceramic-based permeable paver that allows water to pass through it has many environmental benefits, not only LEED standards, but you're looking at managing stormwater. It's truly a different way of looking at things. It's changing the way architects write their specs, the way engineers implement these specs, and ultimately the way owners spend their money. And so it's something we're very excited about, and we truly feel that Aroura is on the forefront of that revolution. So
cool. Yeah, and I think for anybody, if you have an idea, and even if it sounds crazy, you're going to get a lot of pushback.
Right.
Did any of you get pushback when you said, "Look, I want to start a business"? How many? Raise your hand in the audience if you got pushback when you tried to start a company. Exactly. It just happens, and in some towns it happens more often. And if you have any stories of how you were able to push through that, Jeremy, were you able to push through some of that resistance in the beginning?
I was just naive. So I thought that I was entitled and naive. So I went through and did what needed to get done and didn't know any better. So
Right.
I think as you go on through time, you get a little bit more educated and you become more of a cynic. And when I started, I thought that was what I deserved and what I should get, and started out in real estate. And once real estate slowed down, I kept our apartment buildings, but moved on and thought, maybe investing in a bar is not a bad idea. And again, just being naive, continue to put money, time, and effort into what I thought I wanted and deserved. So
yeah, in that industry, if you have the right kind of friends like I do, that just funds your whole business. Trust me. So Luke, tell me, are you seeing artists succeed, especially the younger artists? Are you seeing some break through?
Slowly. What I'm seeing more, there are a few artists that have kind of begun to create like a career for themselves. But what I'm seeing more is kind of enthusiasm and this sense of possibility here. And that's really great. One of the things, going back to your question about challenges, is it was interesting how open and available this community was when we started it out, doing terrain, when we were just in a raw space. And we continue to do this. So we put up about 100 pieces of art in a raw space, invite some bands, and then sell alcohol. And, the entire, from, the mayor's office, Mayor Werner's office, down to, the people that were just giving us these empty buildings for free were just wonderfully open. The interesting thing where we started getting pushback was when the museum approached us last year to come and help kind of collaboratively create and two exhibitions that ended up being fusing kind of older, more established artists and younger emerging artists. And we got a lot of pushback from people who felt like, there's no place for young artists in a museum, because museums are a place where, the best and most established art among us are. It's kind of a learning institution. It was almost, the criticisms were that it was like a cathedral to this particular sort of thing.
Gotcha.
And terrain's kind of always been about thinking that there's nothing inherently sacred about these things, and that if these things are wonderful, they're to be celebrated. And so we ended up, that was actually the most shocking for us, was getting that first pushback. And I think it's absolutely valid. I think those criticisms are part of what create a great dialogue here. And it's really the dialogue that's going to help grow our community. But seeing when we threw our first party, and our last party is actually tonight at 6 o'clock at the museum, if you guys want to come down and check it out. Having a band on stage in the largest gallery at the museum and having 1,200 people there 2 months ago was just, it felt good.
Yeah, that's great. Are there organizations in town? I mean, I know there are, but can you talk about some of the organizations that are here to help if you're an artist?
Well, the Museum of Arts and Culture has been very helpful to us, and they're kind of looking to reinvent themselves in the light of the budget woes they've had over the last 3 years and almost, surviving being completely shut down. They're looking to find ways to connect on a deeper level with the community. But then really you kind of have to get, and the Arts Commission's wonderful, Karen Mobley over at in the mayor's office. She does a lot of help kind of helping shepherd artists along and putting them in touch with people who might want to buy art or commission art.
Right.
And the local gallery owners that remain, Colva Sullivan, Jim Colvin, Pat Sullivan are wonderful. The Second Space Gallery is great. But yeah, it's tough, and it's really about one of the things that's been wonderful to watch is to watch the arts community kind of create itself. So it's become this thing where people, have gotten together and kind of created their own scrappy little skunk works for getting their vision that they see achieving it. And so it's painters hanging out with filmmakers, hanging out with actors, hanging out with just getting these weird projects done.
Yeah, very cool. So if anyone has any questions for the panelists, feel free to come up and we can have a little interactive dialogue. If this community could help each of you individually with your business, if you could say what something we could do as a community to help you, Jeremy, what would that be?
I don't want to say drink. I don't want to say that.
We're not advocating
that. I think what in helping themselves and the community as a whole would be being more social.
Right.
We find that a lot of people in Spokane, you have to have an event to get anybody out of their house. Yeah. And so, like terrain and different events are great for it. But just going out and socializing with a few people after work, meeting new people, knowing your neighbors, that kind of thing, bringing social groups together and networking that way. Launchpad, again, another great way to do it. But you see Spokane, what we found is in Spokane you have to have, people are looking for a reason to go out, otherwise they're not going to go outside of their house.
Right.
And so I think that something, again, for the community just to think about, individuals, is be social, say hi to people. Go, don't be scared to go, even if you don't have the money to do it. Go and have a $1 beer or a small appetizer or something and say hi to people. Talk to your bartender, talk to other individuals that are in that, whatever establishment it might be. And just get out and meet people and, again, be more social that way. I think people see a huge difference when it comes to their network as well as their ability to go and get a job or an income when they're working with other people that are local.
Yeah, there's a statistic we use real quick that 80 to 90% of people find jobs through the hidden job market. Meaning in Spokane, it's pretty true. You got to be seen. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. And you want to get referred because folks are just not, they don't want to look through stacks of resumes right now when looking to hire people. They want referrals. So you got to get out. You got to be social. It's got to be, and a lot of people don't want to go past that checkpoint. Coming from the north side to downtown, they think there's a checkpoint at the river. And there's a weird sort of mentality of traveling in Spokane. I don't know what that is. But we definitely got to get past that. So it's a good point. So what do you think, Luke?
I think two things that would help. I think one of the things that the Inlander's always done and been so amazing at, and they kind of foresaw this whole thing. But then also, one thing that we've really seen as we've built terrain is that people could help most by being mindful with how they spend what little money they have. And just making a choice whether you're going to spend it on something that's frivolous, or not necessarily frivolous, but just something that's transitory or something that's going to last, like a piece of art. And then secondly, just be curious about your community and that doesn't cost anything. Just be curious about the people that are out there and the opportunities that are out there and the types of the really excellent things that are happening here that you don't expect. The conventional wisdom says don't happen here because the town is called Spokane and not New York or something. There's a lot of amazing things happening here that deserve to see the light of day and deserve your patronage.
And we need, and all of us need to do a better job of being ambassadors and talking about the good things that are happening. You can just sit and be negative all day, but there are a ton of good things happening here, and that's the reality of it. We just got to really do a better job of promoting that and getting people out of their homes. Right. So, what do you think, Kevin?
Once again, speaking from my company's perspective, and both that and personally, and growing up in that millennial generation, not only do we have laptops and phones, but I carry the tablet. My mom gives me the hardest time because this thing does not leave my hip. I mean, I go with it everywhere, and whether it's to help promote my product or to look something up, it's an important part of my life. So I think the biggest thing, kind of hitting off whether it's just going down and getting a drink or, having that curiosity, collaboration for this generation. For those that are traditionalists or X generation or baby boomers, don't be afraid of us. I mean, technology is absolutely bonkers at times, and it looks like an absolute bear. But if this community does have that collaboration, we can, really, really reach greater heights, I think. So.
Yeah, and I think that plays off of what Jason talked about earlier, is reaching across to the different generations. I wrote an article in Catalyst magazine that talked about maybe the baby boomers becoming more of the mentor generation for the millennials and Gen Y, because they have so much knowledge in running a business and things like that. I think we need to reach out to your generation more and just say, stop complaining about, they're always on their iPad or always on their iPhone, they're always texting, and say, hey, I want to learn more about that. Be curious about you and about your business and your ideas.
And I do think in the 21st century we have lost sight of that mentor-apprentice relationship.
Right.
And that's something we really need to promote and to bring back.
Right.
Because once again, I am 23 years old. I'm brand new to the business world. Yet there's people out there that have been there. And if we have that collaboration, great things can happen.
Yeah, and if that word of mouth spreads through your generation, more people will probably end up staying here saying, I can get help. There is a community here ready to support me with people who know what they're talking about. So what do you think, Melissa?
Touching on that point, Kevin, that's exactly one of the components I was going to mention. When you get out of college, high school, or start your career, there's this assumption that you now know it all, and you really don't. What I loved about Spokane is over the last decade, I have sought advice from so many mentors and people who've been there and done that. And most importantly, in starting this company, I wasn't afraid to say, help, I don't know which way to go. Can you guide me through this? And yes, there's pitfalls, and yes, I stumbled, but there were so many people who I asked for guidance that I got such support, collaboration, and I don't know if that's just a Spokane thing, because this is my knowledge base to pull from, but I know that there are people who want to share their knowledge, they want to share their expertise, but you just have to ask. So I've been very fortunate to be a part of mastermind groups and networking groups like Launchpad and different groups to get different insights from community leaders, etc. So it's been very, very informative.
Would you say the biggest challenge is really finding those mentors and where to connect? If you're an introvert or you just graduated, you really don't know where to plug in?
I would say that's a very good point. There is, technology that assists in that, but you still have to be present, be seen. Like you mentioned, I can't tell you, 80-90% of my business comes from who I know and networking and connecting with people, not the old traditional way of doing business.
Exactly. We profess this new thing called face-to-face networking. It's very bizarre, F2F.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? I mean, is it really, is it tough to kind of connect and find those networks and maybe those people that you need to meet? Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it was difficult. Being down in Pullman for 2 years, I was in Montana for 2 years. I made a transfer in-state because I wanted to study business down there. But coming up here, it was brand new to me. I did have my Gonzaga prep network, and I highly relied on that to really set a base for myself. But in terms of that expansion, I feel like there was a little bit of a barrier. And I don't think that's okay. Maybe it's just because I'm 23, but I think that seeing young entrepreneurs come into this community should be embraced, whether it's bars or journalism, or real estate, or a brick. It has to be an elimination of those barriers.
Right.
We have to remain realistic, but I think that if we get advice from those experts, it'll really reap benefits.
Yeah, I believe this 100%, that the best ideas that are going to come in the next 10 years are going to come from your generation.
We like that.
And I really believe that. I don't think you have baggage, that comes along with, we can't do this because it's always been done another way. I think that if I can give you any advice at all, it's really build relationships, but don't lose that spirit of why not. This is a better way to do it. And you're going to get a lot of pushback along the way. I guarantee it, because you're disruptive.
Right.
And as a child, you're told disruptive is bad. Well, guess what? When you're an adult, sometimes it's good.
Right.
And it's okay. Ask questions. And that's why technology is so cool. It gives you more opportunities. Somebody just posted on our web channel, by the way, that the best ideas come out of happy hours, so that should make you happy, Jeremy.
There you go.
We're not advocating drinking, by the way. Any other questions? I know we've been talking for a little while. We normally get some questions. I know people are a little shy, but if nobody has any questions, any final thoughts from each of you? Jeremy, anything that was touched on today that you want to mention again, or anything else that you'd like to talk about?
There are people out there that are looking to mentor, to help, that can give advice, all those things. It's just getting involved. I mean, whether it's through Greater Spokane Incorporated, the Chamber of Commerce, through Launchpad, or a drink. There are people out there that you'll find that love to give advice and have a conversation.
Right.
We're social by nature.
Right.
So you can find those people. It's just a matter of putting yourself out there and making an effort.
Network and drink responsibly.
Absolutely.
That's the key. Right. Luke?
I guess the other thing to go along with this is, on the one hand, the older generation should be more accepting of us. I think I agree with that. But also, you need to be dogged. And I think a lot of people in our generation, there's, 90% of the negativity that comes about millennials is just absolutely wrong. But we do have a sense of entitlement. And I think one of the most rewarding thing is when you reach out to somebody and they say no, and then you ask them again and they say no again, and then eventually you sit them down and then they become one of your greatest allies. So it's important to just not expect the world to come to you, and you just have to work as hard as you can and just and don't give up on people. I mean, if you're asking people not to give up on you, you can't give up on people.
Yeah, and know that people are busy. We're running our businesses. Don't take it personal. It's just maybe we've had a rough day. There's a lot going on. It doesn't mean we don't want to sit down and talk to you. We absolutely, for most people I know, we definitely want to work with younger people. We thrive on that energy. But I love that idea. Just stay with it. Stay consistent and keep pushing forward. What do you think, Kevin?
To kind of go off his point, have a never say never attitude, never say die. Really get after it and be passionate about what you're doing. Follow those passions, and I think eventually you'll start creating those relationships. And once again, collaboration. I mean, I can't say it enough. I think it's so important, both for younger millennials and for traditionalists. We all need an understanding of each other.
For you personally, I really caught on to your enthusiasm, and it was really interesting for me. I love that passion, and I'm kind of working with you one-on-one. Has it been difficult for you, though, because I'm quite a bit older, obviously? No, it's okay. You don't have to make me feel better about myself.
No.
But is it tougher reaching out to that little older generation, and do you feel like there's been a gap there, or kind of what Jason was talking about?
I feel that there has been a gap, but the funny thing about it is that we are bridging that gap right now as we speak. I see the faces in the crowd, and all walks of life are here. But we're in agreement. We're coming together, and that's the big thing about it is we're bridging those gaps that we once thought were impossible. Or, hey, I'm an entrepreneur sitting in my college dorm, and I come up with this great idea. Yet there's so many factors about it that I just get overwhelmed and I give up on that great idea.
Right.
It's the difference between entrepreneurship and successful entrepreneurship. And I believe if we give more kids my age a realistic perspective on those dreams, aka other generations, to say that is a good idea, we like that, it's gonna pay off. So.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like are people giving you guys respect? Like my generation or other generations, are you getting the respect, especially as an entrepreneur? Do you feel like you've been given that respect?
Yes and no. I think some people are very receptive, but there is some skepticism in generations, and that's okay. But we have to have more of a universal understanding of not only where the world's been, but where the world is headed. I think we need to understand that young entrepreneurs that have great ideas can revolutionize our economies. We can bring money to this market, whether it's local or on a global scale. So.
Right. What do you think, Melissa?
I would say absolutely I have gotten respect. One of the greatest lessons I got from my MBA program was the concept that when you get in to do something, if you are diligent and rise to the top of your field very quickly, it's hard for you to drop down. But if you kind of are lackluster and float along, it's hard for you to get to the top. So the minute I got into my industry, I knew that I had to make it to the top as quickly as possible, and I worked and worked and worked. But once you have that track record and once you have that name recognition and that brand, the respect and acceptance follows. So what I would say is I have gotten a lot of respect in the community, which I'm overwhelmed by and very appreciative of.
And I can say, just in seeing you in the professional settings, you carry yourself as a professional. And you did that very early on.
Yes.
And for those that ever hear this, do try to wear the proper attire when you go to networking events and when you go out in public and things like that. Try to dress appropriately and learn some of those traits of being professional, the right handshake, listen 80% of the time. And I know Marilee has some great workshops that we're going to be introducing here shortly at Launchpad to help you with that. Because sometimes it's not innate. It's not natural if you weren't raised with those kind of qualities or around you all the time. But it's very important how you carry yourself. And you've done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of you have done a wonderful job. And that's one of the main reasons I want to invite you to be on the panel, is because you're outstanding in what you're trying to do. You have a great attitude. And it's important for the community of Spokane to see that. And we need to do more to promote that. So with that, unless there are any other questions online, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. But I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank all of you for being here. Please stick around at Nectar Tasting Room for our networking event. And join us next week for the Job Seekers Community Luncheon, same time, same day, on Friday. And lastly, if all of you have your phones, can you bring out your phones real quick, please? Go ahead and turn them back on. What I'd like you to do right now is we're testing a new service from a company called Loyal Mobs. Text your feedback from today's session to 509-774-5880. That's 509-774-5880. And we are testing a new service to see if we can get feedback from you and start sharing information through different types of technologies. So with that, please give our guests a round of applause, and that will wrap up our show for today. So thank you all very much for being here. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.